Welcome back to the Personal Freedom Center. Our topic for today is how and why to terminate all corporate contracts. So I want to greet you with our traditional Moorish greetings, which are Grand Rising, Islam, Ashe, Welcome, and then Namaste, which is more of a spiritual greeting. Okay, so that means the God in I salutes the God in you. I am Freedom Imani Ashel, life coach and author, founder of the Personal Freedom Center, located in Auburn, Washington Territory. My 5 core pathways to personal freedom are spiritual, emotional, religious, physical, and financial freedom. I believe that all people, regardless of their status in life, need a healthy balance in each one of these pathways in order to be happy, healthy, spiritually. I am in my proper person, in proper persona, suturis, in propria solo, and in propria heredis. No United States corporation has any authority over me or any declared Moors. And you want to pay attention to that part there, okay? I am Aboriginal and Indigenous Sovereign Orange American National at all times and in all points in time. I am a descendant of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the Moabites and Canaanites. I am with all Moors and are living heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce contracts non pro tunc, which means null for them. I terminate and abolish forever all contracts, charters, and trusts that exist in the name of Vivian Gale Bennett, Vivian Bennett Abel, and Freedom Imani H.L., and all derivatives thereof. Issued by the United States Corporation Company, the United States, and all corporations. The reason I did so is to remove myself, or was to remove myself, from under the corporate covering of the United States Corporation and claim my indigenous status and hereditaments wherein. This is the primary reason why a termination of corporate contracts is done by Moors all over the world. If you have a desire to terminate all of your corporate contracts, become sovereign, meaning ruler over your own self, business, and personal affairs, then you may want to do a termination of corporate contracts as well. Revelation 18:5 tells us to come out of Babylon, and this is the path I was led to take to come out of Babylon or the corporation of the United States. See my video entitled the two United States on YouTube. I'll leave the link below. My YouTube channel is the Personal Freedom Center. There are 2 United States. One was formed in 1787, the other in 1871, that only controls the District of Columbia and its territories. They passed the Law Act of 1871 to provide a government for the District of Columbia. The United States Corporation is really a possession of the English Crown. And we'll talk more about that as we go on. The United States of America is the actual country in all small letters and is the actual country of America, or El Morocco. The United States, spelled in all capital letters, is the corporate system that only exists in a 10-mile radius from Washington, D.C., and operates under codes and statutes. The United States Corporation operates under private international law. The U.S. Corporation has no jurisdiction beyond the District of Columbia. So we're going to look at what is a contract. Okay, so it's a noun. The word contract is a noun. And early in the 14th century, it was born at that time and defined as an agreement between two or more persons to do or not to do some particular thing. Originally, especially a marriage, from Old French contract, modern French contract. From Latin contractus, a drawing together, a shrinking, or contract, an agreement, from past participle of contrahere, to draw several objects together, drawn in, shortened, lessened, abridged. Metaphorically, makes a bargain, make an agreement from a assimilated form of with together, see con plus trahir, to draw together, in reference to the writing which contains the agreement and its terms and conditions of 1610. Reading and studying you to get out of the situation that currently has you bound and has many of us bound under these corporate contracts. Reading and studying is what they do not expect us to do. So this is why I'm spending my time showing you these things so you can see the information for yourself and realize how important it is to read. These things were not taught to us in school. Therefore, we must learn now how to come out of Babylon and how to break our ties with the corporation and regain our sovereign status. Okay, it is interesting. I put here that the word contract starts with the word con. And we all know that it's like a con artist. It's a word that denotes being tricked. Okay, so the next section is entitled All Contracts Are Fraudulent. Contract fraud is when one party of a contract misrepresents information. The two main types of contract fraud are fraud in the inducement and fraud in the factum. Fraud in the inducement is when the entire contract is fraudulent, and fraud in the factum is when only portions are misleading. I'll put all the links to this article along with the video on my blog on my website. To prove fraud, a person must show that one party purposefully misrepresented the facts with the intention of misleading the other party, causing the deceived party to suffer a loss. Every contract that you have ever signed with the United States Corporation is a fraudulent document that bears highlighting. Right? Again, every contract that you and I have ever signed with the United States Corporation is a fraudulent document, and here's why. Here's the beginning of why. So, the United States Corporation filed bankruptcy in 1933, and I'll point you to some references to study that on your own. They then created a fake you, your straw man, in all capital letters, and assigned all debt to your straw man, and made you and I think that we were this fictitious person. The real you does not owe any debt, and also is not written in all capital letters. Okay, so the real you does not owe any debt. Only the fake you, or your straw man, which is a citizen of the U.S. corporation, owes debt and will be expected to pay up for the rest of their lives as U.S. citizens. Real United States citizens or Americans are under the Constitution. Corporate citizens are under codes and statutes created by the legal term lawyers and law firms of the corporation. The legal team, I'm sorry. I got my glasses on and I still am messing up my letters, I guess. Uh, Anyhow, it comes with the territory of getting older. So anyway, sovereigns or Moors are Aboriginal and Indigenous Native peoples of the land. And we'll go into why and how and why that's important and who are the Moors. Okay. So again, Moors are sovereigns or Moors are Aboriginal and Indigenous Native peoples of the land, and the only Aboriginal and Indigenous Native people of the land. Remedies for contract fraud. Typical remedies in the corporate world are awards of money damages. Typical remedies in the corporate world are awards of money damages and are the main remedy for fraudulent contracts, reimbursing the non-breaching party for the losses caused by fraud. If the award doesn't cover the suffered harm, an injunction is the next step. So in other words, if the award doesn't cover the suffering or the harm, an injunction is the next step. Other remedies can include revocation of the contract and damages. Contract revocation is the most common remedy as fraud renders a contract voidable. If the contract is not rescinded, the parties may choose to revert to their pre-contract positions. Okay, so this is why it is recommended that you terminate all of your corporate contracts. The instruments were contracts, bills, etc., used by the United States Corporation owns you from birth to death. It owns all of your assets, all of your property, and even yourself and your children, and will prove this as we go along. It also owns and controls all of your bills, taxes, fines, licenses, degrees, businesses, churches, etc. The United States of America is the original country, as I stated above, and is under the Constitution, while the United States Corporation and its citizens are under statutes and codes as defined in the Uniform Commercial Code book and its rules and regulations. You can look up the commercial code on Amazon. You can buy the book. You can look up the individual codes doing a Google search. In order to understand why anyone would want to terminate all corporate contracts, let's take a look at the word. Oh, we already did that. That was a different definition. If you want, you could follow that link and you can look at that one. It means basically the same thing, trahere, to come together, okay? So an important fact to remember, why I have it highlighted in bold here, that Congress works for the corporation and not the citizens. Okay, again, the Congress works for the corporation and not the citizens. Okay, this is why in my last video entitled "Why Black People Shouldn't Vote" really addressed all people. In the English language, many words are carefully designed and put together in a way that allows them to be used to cast spells. The dark magicians or powers that be are well aware of this, which is why they like to use the English language to trick us to play their con games to enslave mankind. English is the language that the dark forces or the powers that be want to use. Author in the book that I'm quoting uses dark forces, and I use in powers that be, want to use to control the world. So English is the language that the dark forces or the powers that be want to use to control the world. One of the reasons for this is that many English words are great for creating deceptive contracts. In addition, English has become the global language of business. And also, the United States is the dollar that controls the whole monetary system of the world. And so it only makes sense that the language will follow. In the United States, again, it says, are great for creating deceptive contracts. When we learn how to use these words wisely, we can stop the dark forces from diminishing our freedom and sovereignty. By the end of this video, you will learn many empowering words and ways that you can restore and protect your freedom and sovereignty. And that is an excerpt from Word Magic, okay? It's the in the references at the end. When we learn how to use these words wisely, we can stop the dark forces from diminishing our freedom and sovereignty. By the end of this video, etc., you will learn many empowering words. I should say ways, okay, and ways that you can use to restore and protect your freedom and sovereignty. Contracts. So, in this section, I will effort to show you the why of terminating all of your corporate contracts. If you have a driver's license and or your vehicle is registered to the government, that's a contract. Cops can pull you over for speeding without having to worry too much about violating your natural rights because you don't have any. Your driver's license or license plate is evidence that you have a contract with the government and therefore it puts you under the jurisdiction of the government and its agents. However, most, if not almost all contracts of the government do not meet the requirement of a contract and therefore are not really contracts. Your right to travel is protected by natural law, a body of spiritual laws. It is a natural right inherently given to you by God. Because of this, no man, government agent, or government agency can lawfully tell you to stop traveling or how to travel without your consent, unless you harm another man, woman, or child while traveling. If they were to force you to stop traveling without your consent, they would be in direct violation of God's natural law, of Allah, Yah, however you call it. Okay, so this is the reference for the book, Chang Pao, Word Magic, The Powers of Occult Definitions of Words, second edition, and this is in Kindle, Esoteric Knowledge. So that's a reference from that book. Since the state is a body politic, the only way, okay, so you might not know what a body politic is, okay, but it's talking about the state. Okay, think of the state that you live in. It's not a living thing, right? It's an adjective. It describes a location, right? It is called a body, which is given it human characteristics or some type of body. Doesn't necessarily mean human, okay, but it's given it a form and shape. And it's a political body. Okay, so now we see that the states that we live in are political bodies, that they have a form that falls underneath the political realm. The only way a sentient being, a man or a woman, can interact with the state is through some other type of legal entity, okay? So because the state is a political body, the only way that you and I can interact with the state is through some type of other body or legal entity. An entity means a being. As the United States government is conducting business through its corporation or its corporate capacity, an artificial person, the members of the body politic are likewise considered artificial persons. Okay, let's read that sentence again. As the United States government is conducting business through its corporate capacity as an artificial person, the members of the body politic likewise are considered artificial persons. When it refers to corporations, the term body politic means that the members of such corporations shall be considered as an artificial person. It refers to means that members of the corporations shall be considered as artificial persons. And now this comes from Bouvier's Law Dictionary under body politic. So that's what you or anyone who is a citizen in the United States corporation is considered an artificial person. So dead, man versus person. A creditor may at any future time have execution against the lands and goods of a defendant, though never more against his person. Persons are also divided into citizens, aliens, when viewed with regard to their political rights. When they are considered in relation to their civil rights, they are living or civilly dead. Bouvier's Dictionary under person, 1856. The state of a person who life has lost all civil rights and also to them is considered civilly dead. Therefore, a man or woman can still be alive, but the person of the man or woman can be civilly dead, meaning having no civil rights. If one is civilly dead, then a Title 42 Section 1983 lawsuit against government or its agents would be summarily dismissed, which is only proper. The question then becomes, in what manner are Americans converted into individuals who are civilly dead, and how can this be corrected? Okay, so this section is telling us that a person is considered civilly dead and has no rights in the eyes of the law. And how can we change this? The term civil disability is used as equivalent to legal disability. Both these expressions meaning disabilities as distinguished from physical disabilities. A physical disability is a disability or incapacity caused by physical defect or infirmity or a bodily imperfection or mental weakness of alienation as distinguished from civil disability, which relates to the civil status or condition of the person. I challenge you or give you a task to look in Bovier's dictionary or Black's Law dictionary and look up the word civil. So a physical disability is a disability or incapacity caused by physical defect or infirmity or bodily imperfection or mental weakness of alienation as distinguished from civil disability, which relates to the civil status or condition of the person and is imposed and is imposed and is imposed by the law. Black's Dictionary, 5th edition, disability. You can look and download Black's Law Dictionary, the 4th edition, online for free. Persons are also divided into citizens and aliens. When viewed with regard to their political rights, when they are considered in relation to their civil rights, they are living or civilly dead. Bovier's Law Dictionary. They are living or civilly dead. So you're either alive or you're living or you are civilly dead. Okay? You're either a citizen or an alien. If you're an alien, that means that you're not a citizen. If you're alien to the United States corporation, basically. Therefore, a man or woman can still be alive, but the person of the man or woman can be civilly dead, meaning having no civil rights. If one is civilly dead, then Title 42, Section 1983, lawsuit against the government or its agents would be summarily dismissed, which is only proper. The question then becomes, in what manner are Americans converted into individuals who are civilly dead, and how can this be corrected? Civil status. Estate or condition of each man's person or title, which is commonly referred to and known as a citizen of the United States. Okay, again, so we're looking at the definition here of civil status. So I'm going to take that number off so you know it's not a new idea or comment. Civil status can be defined as an estate or condition of each man's person or title, which is commonly referred to and known as a citizen of the United States, was shown previously to be a disability or disabled by being included as an enemy under the Trading with the Enemies Act of 1917, as amended in March of 1933 by Franklin D. Roosevelt, thereby giving all citizens of the United States one of the legal disabilities imposed by law at that time. The second disability would be that of a legal entity operating in bankruptcy, making such legal entities civilly dead. The manner in which this civil death occurs will now be shown. Definition of civil liter mortuus. Civilly dead, dead in the view of the law. The condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law. So now we're going to go to Secrets of America, which is also a free online PDF. And we're going to look at it. We'll get back to that page a little later. So here, um, oh, that's okay. So we're going to look at, and I want to start on page 45. Now I'm looking at the page numbers here. Often in the PDF, the page numbers here and the page numbers at the bottom of the PDF differ. I'm going to scroll back up to page 45 as I was entertaining myself with this book once again. Every time I read it, I pick up on something else. Okay, so you can find this online. It's called The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America, and it is written by a whistleblower judge named Judge Dale. Now, this research that he has in this book can be found from other resources by Judge Dale, and I'm pretty sure that's not his real name, but the information can be validated. And I'm only saying this because I've seen articles trying to debunk him on the internet because they want people who, like myself, are trying to teach you from this whistleblower judge that it's a fraud. So what I would do if I were you is what I've learned to gather information and just take it all in as information. Our brain stores information like a file cabinet. And so when we read about religion, we file it away in the drawer that says religion. When we read about history, it files it away there. And then uh, it continues in all the other things that we read and study. So after a while, the things that you study will start to form a picture. And so as I started searching and studying for myself, letting go of all the things that I had been taught were the only truth, I started looking at everything as information and not judging it, filing it in a file cabinet mentally in my mind under certain categories until it began to form a picture. Sometimes the file cabinets would just have one or two things, and in my mind, I guess they would get debunked by other information, and so nothing else would be added to that. But truth continues to build a stronger and stronger case. And so that file cabinet drawer gets bigger and bigger, and then you start to form a picture, okay, for yourself of what is right. When you seek the truth, truth will come to you. And truth is like light. When light enters a room, the darkness dissipates. It's like, wow, it just goes away. And you're like, wow, and you know the truth now. You've seen the truth. And the light has shined on the darkness or the error. And now you're adding truth upon truth. And then you come into understanding. And a lot of the things that we were taught were lies. So I'm going to go down to page 45, but you can download this. You can also um, ask me for it, and I can send you a copy to your email. I went a little too far, so let me go back. I wanted to show you the title so you can find it easier for yourself. Now, when it comes to studying, I like to show people, not just tell them, because I don't ever want anybody to go back and have something they feel is really important and tell another person who they believe is important in their life that so and so said. Freedom Gail or L said this, or so and so said this. No, you want to be able to show them facts or things that you've actually read or learned for yourself. Okay, so let's see. We can actually go back to. Oh man, I could end up reading this whole thing, but I won't. Actually, okay, so I'm gonna go back to page 43. Okay, so we're gonna come back down to the trading with the enemy act in a little bit. So I'll let you go back and read that for yourself. So we're gonna start here. Earlier in this article, it talks about the Virginia colony. In parentheses, it says America's corporate military government. Okay, the Virginia colony is also America's corporate military government under the guise of the United States of America. Entered into international treaty titled the Geneva Convention. International treaties are recognized by all of the world's governments and therefore carry more force and effect in law than any constitution or individual contracts called statutes. The crux of this particular international treaty specifically prohibited any and all military intervention and or the operation of any military courts of justice over the civilian population of any conquered nation. By entering into this treaty as the United States of America, the treaty became null and void due to fraud because America was actually operating under the corporation titled the Virginia Colony. So just a little bit, let's read that again and break it down a little bit. So in 1964, the United States or America was known as the Virginia Colony. Under the guise of the United States of America, they entered into a treaty entitled the Geneva Convention. And then it says that international treaties are recognized by all of the world's governments, and therefore they carry more force and more effect in law than the Constitution or any individual contracts that the United States corporation calls statutes. Okay, now the crux of this particular treaty, meaning the crux or the strongest point on which it stands, right? Treaty is specifically prohibited any and all military intervention and or the operation of any military courts of justice over any civilian population. Right? And so now we're saying that this was the American corporate military government, right? So it prohibited the America corporate military government or any military government, see right here, and or the operation of any military courts of justice over the civilian population of any conquered nation. By entering into this treaty as the United States of America, the treaty became null and void due to fraud because America was actually operating under the corporation titled the Virginia Colony. Factually, in fact, Americans are a conquered people, conquered by the European royal and elite, and by their own federal and state governments with the stroke of a pen and the expert use of legalese, deception, patriotism, propaganda, fear, and intimidation. Hence the proof of the old phrase coined by Sir Edward Bulwer Lytton in his 1839 play about a papal conspiracy says, in quote, beneath the rule of men entirely great, the pen is mightier than the sword. And a lot of people in our day and age have been realizing that the pen is mightier than the sword and are learning how to get themselves out of this conspiracy from underneath this conquered European royal elite and getting from under these governments, okay, by the pen. It is mightier than the sword, okay? So we use the same way that they tricked us into it by knowledge and by words, and we use the same method to get ourselves out. And out in this case refers to terminating all corporate contracts. Let's go on. Lincoln's declaration of war under the War Powers Clause of Article 1, Clause of the Constitution, has yearly and secretly been renewed by Congress and all past presidents, but for a different reason. So Lincoln's declaration of war has been renewed yearly. Why? It says, but for a different reason. Their renewed declaration of war specifies that the private corporate U.S. government, meaning the U.S. United States corporation, is at war with America and its people. And so here it's separating the United States government from America, which I and most of you have always thought was the same place or entity and its people. So again, the renewed declaration of war that they renew yearly specifies that the private corporate U.S. government is at war with America and its people, and defines the American public as the enemy of the states. Remember that movie with Will Smith? Can you see the way he was watched everywhere? There was nowhere he can go and hide. It's the same way that we're being watched now through our computers, our phones, everything that we say, do. And with the bank now, everything that you buy, they list it out in detail. So the government knows everything that you wear, buy, eat, if you use that credit card for everything. Okay? So, but the big picture that I want you to see here is that this article or clause in the Constitution has declared America and its people at war, or United States government at war with the American people. And the American public is considered the enemy of the state. Now, you might wonder why that is. It doesn't make any sense. It would be like a child or a mother deliberately being at war with their own children, or vice versa. Why would you want to disrupt your family instead of having a harmonious existence? Okay, now let's go on. Now you know why the president and Congress continue to screw us over and constantly lie to the American public. Note, the mention of the Constitution by the corporate government is only done to appease the ire of the American people. The Congress, judges, bar lawyers laugh at Americans who claim protections under the Constitution, and they label them constitutionalists. Still, the politicians and the media continue to pacify us by telling the American public that we are a free nation and a nation of laws protected by the Constitution. It sounds safe and comforting, and that is what the bulk of society really cares about, being safe and comfortable, because we equate our safety and pleasure with freedom. In December of 2011, Congress repealed the Bill of Rights, and in March 2012 repealed the First Amendment and ordered immediate blackout of both events. So how safe do you feel now? The author asked. Or on about December 6, 1865, the Congress of the Virginia Colony, America's corporate military government, secretly rewrote the organic Constitution of the United States of America twice in the same year. Secretly rewrote it, the Constitution, twice in the same year, which disposed of the 13th Amendment and then replaced the 13th by moving the 14th down to the 13th position, or part of it. The original 13th Amendment prohibited lawyers from ever holding a seat in the government, And now 98% of all government offices and 100% of all judges of the courts of record are held by lawyers. Makes you think, doesn't it? The 14th Amendment followed on the heels of the Emancipation Proclamation, which was supposed to free the slaves and define all of our individual rights. Now, I really want you to pay attention here because a lot of times we're crying, why is this happening to black people? Black Lives Matter. And obviously, it doesn't here, okay? Because we thought that the slaves were freed, right? So the 14th Amendment followed on the heels of the Emancipation Proclamation, which was supposed to free the slaves and define all of our individual rights, which turned out to be another canard or kind of like a joke. The 14th Amendment did just the opposite, which will be explained as you read on. So if I don't completely cover it here, read this article. It's only 132 pages. You'll probably read it in a couple of days. In the next rewrite of the Constitution, the 15th, 16th, and 17th Amendments were added without a constitutional convention or public vote and were actually rejected by every state government of the Republic. However, the Secretary of Congress ignored the rejection letters and reported to Congress and the media that these amendments had been ratified by a sufficient number of states. Okay, but that wasn't true. These amendments were intended to give the federal government the authority to tax us into poverty, and they used these amendments with great proficiency. Future arguments before the Supreme Court resulted in the High Court declaring that the legality of these amendments was a political issue and not a judicial one. Okay, so if anyone took these arguments to court, the court declared that these issues were not legal, right? And they said that they were political issues right here. See, political issues and not judicial one. And so they refused to rule on them. Now, the Secretary of Congress got away with this deception because the Constitution was never intended for America from the start. The colonists were functional illiterates, and many wool was pulled over their eyes. And unfortunately, the same strategy continues to be used against us today to keep all Americans functional but illiterate. Now let's expand this because whatever happens in America ends up and is happening all around the world. You can find similar arguments or videos, etc., about Canada and other countries, even in Africa. The same things are happening. You can use these remedies no matter where you live. Okay? You can use these remedies if you're meaning a person of color in another country. You can use these remedies, send your paperwork to any Moorish American consulate, or just post them on the public domain, online, on the Moorish American Consulate, West, East, whatever website. Put it on a Google blog. But you have to declare your nationality first, and we'll get back to that later. So let's stay in the story here, okay? So keep Americans functional but illiterate. And this is also why they don't teach us the truth in the schools. And this is why if I had to do it all over again and raise my children, I would have not sent them to these public schools because they're only teaching our children to believe these lies and it's like religion. People argue over the religion of their youth. They refuse to hear anything that goes contrary to it, and in fact are warned not to read books from other faiths, from other religions, not to read anything outside of their religion. And if you do, even when I was an Adventist, I don't mean to call it out or as anything negative because anything that leads you into a close relationship can't be beneficial with your innermost and outermost power, who we call God, who we are. Uh, don't you know that you are God's? You are offspring. You are the children of the Most High, but we are God's. Okay, so now here we go. We need to come out of the fear of looking outside the box of our conditioning and start studying so that we can learn truth. If your religion is true, everything that you learn will validate that. If your religion is not true, then it will validate that. If your education is true, then it will validate that. If your education is not true, it will validate that. Or you'll find out some of the things that I did when I was studying is that the it's a never-ending rabbit hole that you just keep going down. You know how moles and rabbits dig hole in the ground? So the more you study, the more deeper you just go down a hole. And then on the left side, you get information proving what your theory is that you're trying to prove. And on the right hand, you get a milieu of information that disproves the information. And so you end up in a conundrum and you don't know what to believe. But these things that I'm teaching you here today are very basic. They're found in with religion. You find that it's an endless headache, and of information that you can come across. But the things that I'm talking about to you today are easily provable and found in history, written, and it's not going to change because the laws, the Constitution, and stuff were written. You just have to find the things that you didn't know in it. Okay, so despite the fact that these secret rewrites were contrary to the public vote or law, Congress finally adopted the rewritten Constitution in Washington, D.C., which became the proprietary law for the District of Columbia. You see, proprietary law carries with it the same force and effect as a city ordinance, and since the District of Columbia is not a recognized state, this ordinance was only enforceable against the residents of Washington, D.C., also known as federal foreign citizens. Okay, so this ordinance was only enforceable against the residents of Washington, D.C., also known as the federal foreign citizens, United States citizens, and the 14th Amendment citizens. The words of art were created by the 14th Amendment with the future intent to entrap us all. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were amendments to the Reconstruction Act, and with the passage of the Reconstruction Act, these words of art forced all state government and state officials and into the District of Columbia as extensions of the corporate federal government. Okay, so basically all state governments and all state officials were forced into the District of Columbia as extensions of the corporate federal government. And this is why I try to explain to people that when you become a state citizen, you're still underneath the District of Columbia. You're still underneath the Vatican, under the Crown. You're still part of the corporation, unless this changed somehow, and I don't know that yet. But from what I can understand, that even though these states claim that they're sovereign, they were all forced under the Reconstruction Act into the District of Columbia as extensions of the corporate federal government. This underlying deception created another set of duplicitous governments, which pose as grand governments, which are actually federal. Okay, again, it says this underlying deception created another set of duplicitous governments. Duplicitous means duplicate, duplicate. When you duplicate something, you make a copy of it. So this underlying deception created another set of duplicate or twin governments, which posed as state governments, which are actually federal. State governments are actually federal, which or with state officials that are actually federal officials. Duplicitous. See, you're told it's one thing, but it's really another. You know, think of twins, uh, identical twins versus not identical. Is it paternal, maternal, paternal twins? Okay, one are exactly alike and the other one just kind of looks like the other one. But when you're looking at the two of them, right, together, you see that they're the same thing like we're doing now. But when you come to meet them individually and you don't know that the other one exists, you think that they're both the same thing. So the residents of Washington, D.C., as we go on, are actually federal foreign citizens because Washington, D.C. is not a state and therefore is alien to the American Republic. Prior to this date, Americans residing within the states were referred to as sovereign citizens of the Republic. The power of the word sovereign comes from the Declaration of Independence and God. The corporate government fears the sovereign citizen because corporations and politicians have no power over the source of law, and sovereigns are the source of all man-made laws. I'm pausing here deliberately, what they call a pregnant pause, to allow that to just sink in. The corporate government fears the sovereign citizen because the sovereign citizen has all power. Now, it goes on to say sovereigns are the source of all man made laws, despite the fact that we are never provided with the opportunity to vote on the passage of any of the government's planned statutes, because that's from the United States Corporation in all capital letters, which were designed purely to drive and control us because we're enemies of the states, because they want money, they want our energy to produce more money for them. That's what this is all about. Statutes are written and passed by the Congress as though they are kings in the kingdom of America. As an elector is what you voted for at every national election. Statutes are written and passed by Congress as though they are kings, but they're electors, which is what you vote for every national election. Okay, and here's a thing down here, a little note that says a corporation is a dead legal fiction. Corporations cannot walk, talk, or make decisions. They are defined by a piece of paper in a safe somewhere called charter. They have no soul to save, body, or to incarcerate. However, we are considered corporations and under the legal dictionary. People are considered corporations, and you want to know why? I hope I remember to explain that to you more fully later, but it's because they're using our credit to create all of these corporations under the straw man, under the fake birth certificate or certificate trust, which is what was created after the bankruptcy of America, which is this article is going to continue to go on to tell you, but I'm not going to read that with you today. You're going to go on and read that for yourself. That's a whole nother conversation and video. So, contrary to the popular opinion, the 14th Amendment did not free anyone, but rather enslaved everyone here, except for a list of 300 influential families who were granted immunity from the 14th Amendment and can be found in the Congressional Record of 1865, which gave them diplomatic immunity. The 14th Amendment did not initially initially make everyone a 14th Amendment citizen, nor grant any special rights or freedoms, e.g., the Bill of Rights. What it succeeded in doing, however, was to make all public officers and people in residence within the District of Columbia a 14th Amendment citizen, aka a United States citizen and federal foreign citizen, and provided for bounty enforceable against them for the non-payment of the public debt, which is exactly what they do to citizens. which was later changed or coined by Congress as the national debt. The public debt or national debt belongs to a private corporation named the Federal Reserve. And how they get this public debt, supposed public debt, repaid is through our labor, through us contracting with them. We had no choice because they took all the gold and silver, which was the only real money, and then put us under a debt system. That's not in here. I'm telling you this, but you'll see that as we continue. But maybe not in those exact words. So I'm trying to phrase it another way so that you have more than one way of hearing it, so that you can fully understand. Okay. This bounty could not lawfully be enforced against anyone else because everyone residing within the states was still a sovereign American citizen of the Republic. The word sovereign is derived from the law of kings, meaning that the source of law is derived from the king, and therefore the force of law can never be enforced against its source. So, aliens, the District of Columbia prior to this time were citizens. The citizens were not citizens, but they were aliens. Okay, so once they enacted this new, um, I want to say, act. Okay, so the 14th Amendment, it became citizens, United States citizens, just like everybody else. Okay, so now what's even so important here is the definition of the sovereign here. Okay, the word sovereign is derived from the law of kings, meaning that the source of law is derived from the king, and therefore the force of law can never be enforced against its source. As sovereign citizens, okay, of the republic, we are the king and source of law, and therefore the force of law cannot be enforced against us except by us and not by any government. So let's stop here for a minute. You wanna come in? If I could change anything in this writing, it would be right here, sovereign citizens. Because there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen as an oxymoron. If you're sovereign, you're not a citizen. Because citizens belong to United States corporations and sovereigns are outside of the. That's very important for you to remember. Okay, so as a sovereign citizen, it's telling you how and why that's so important. Let's try and get rid of that. As sovereign citizens of the Republic, we are the king and source of law, and therefore the force of law cannot be enforced against us except by us and not by any government. As sovereigns, we are the source of law within ourselves. Just as the law of the universe is contained within its own abundance and not defined by any man, but be defined by the very act of what it is and what it is capable of doing and how it repeats and how we can see the history of everything that it does throughout time over and over again. Like they say, the universe does not play favorites. It acts the same for everyone. The universe. We should study the universe. And she does not judge. The sun sets, the sun rises on the just and the unjust. The rain falls, the trees grow, the sun shines on us all. The universe doesn't play any favorites. So just like there's laws that we see in the natural laws of the universe, there is a law in that formula, that formation, the act that's repeated every day when the sun rises and the sun sets. Sun sets. Get it? If there isn't some truth in what I write, why would the federal government exercise such pains to facilitate this complex political conundrum and fraud? This also explains why every law is civil. Even the ones defined as the criminal are actually civil. Civil contracts can be enforced against everyone, including the king. So we're seeing that there's a very important understanding that we need to have about the word civil. Every law is civil. Even the ones as criminal are actively civil. Civil contracts can be enforced against everyone, including the king. By the third constitutional rewrite, all unknowingly became a 14th Amendment citizen by our consent and became the collateral property of the corporate United States government, which once again is the King and Queen of England, the Vatican, and the Sabbatean Rothschild royal family faction. Our lives, our destiny, our children, our credit, our labor, our freedom, and all we are perceived to own would be and has been leveraged against the unlimited spending practices of that body politic. You see, our lives, everything, our children, our credit, our labor, our money was once backed by gold after 1933. It read, backed by good faith and credit of the American people. And now it promises absolutely nothing because now it is all just fiat money or fake or counterfeit, which has no value. Every time you complete a government form or tax return, you are asked to check a box indicating that you are a United States citizen. Citizen meaning a 14th Amendment citizen under the penalty of perjury. You should be checking the box that reads alien of the United States instead, etc., etc. Again, this is done to entrap us into reaffirming our consent that we are their corporate property. So if you're filing your taxes or you're doing any form on their form that they send you, then you need to be very careful. What is recommended that you take any information off their form and fill it out on a separate paper and send it back with that form. But do not click that you are a citizen if you have already come out of the system. And so these are ways that they entrap us into reaffirming our consent. Whenever we sign a contract, we're creating money for them. And I think we're going to come down to here. So let me go on. So next came the Reconstruction Act of 1868, which is misleading because it actually dealt with reconstructing the order of governmental power and redefining the military's purpose and authority within the Virginia Company, fraudulently being represented as the United States of America. This remains in full force and effect today, despite the fact that the President Andrew Jackson has vetoed it. Presidential vetoes can be defeated by two-thirds majority vote by Congress, and this one substantially was defeated. Remember that the Congress works for the government and not the people. As a result of this act, the power and authority of the military supersedes all power and authority of all state, country, and city governments, which are now a part of the federal government. Again, all state, county, and city governments are now a part of the federal government, and all law enforcement personnel is subordinate to the president and the generals in charge of the federal government, and therefore the power and authority of the federal government becomes absolute by this act. All this means is that the government now has the right to tell you how to live your life, whereas before this act, we controlled the government. Okay? What a day. I can't wait till we get back to that again. When we, control the government, we put up and take down leaders, or we govern ourselves, which is what gods do. No, this explains how an FBI agent can take an investigation away from a local police department, yada yada. And then it goes on to say that most people who have local, county, or state jobs do not realize that they are all federal employees pursuant to the Reconstruction Act and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and you can simply highlight those. The government was to be redefined under the USC or the United States Code Title 50, the Trading with the Enemy Act, in which the American citizens are defined as an enemy of their government. Let me see if I skipped an important part in this section. Yeah, I did. Okay, so let me go back to page 49 up here a little bit. So let's see. Okay, so we're going back here. It says March 9th, House Joint Resolution. Okay, Congress was voted into law, which is the emergency. Uh, Congress was voted into law, which is the Emergency Banking Act. This act declared the Treasury of the United States bankrupt, which is an impossible feat since the United States Treasury was secretly closed by Congress 12 years earlier in 1921. They do not care. They just do whatever they want to do. The Emergency Banking Act abrogating America's gold standard and hypothecated all property found within the United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve Bank. So all the property that you thought that you owned or your family owned then and now is assigned to, hypothecated, or given to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve Bank. All sovereign American citizens residing within the Republic of the state suddenly and falsely were expatriated from their sovereign American status without their knowledge or consent, and their labor, souls, children, property, sweat equity, and credit became the financial collateral for the public debt, which had then been converted into a public trust, which had been scripted after the ancient Roman trust. I'm gonna have another video that you should watch on the Unum Sanctum, okay, which is tells you about how this public trust was established and what it means about you and what happened for us in that Unum Sanctum, or the public trust, in which the Vatican and the Pope claims everything in the world, even the souls of men. So the title of that video is "What in the World is Going On?" Uh, so let's go ahead and continue a little bit more. So, and we're getting down to the point where why you need to, um, if I haven't already shown you, you're really going to see here why you need to separate yourself from all of these contracts. Okay, because the dollar is falling and they're coming to collect. Okay, and they can force you to pay back what you don't have and what you shouldn't even have to pay back because you're still a citizen under or in their system. Okay, all sovereign American citizens residing within the Republic of the States suddenly and falsely were expatriated from their sovereign American status without their knowledge or consent. All of our labor, souls, children, prosperity, sweat equity, and credit became financial collateral for the public debt. And this is why people now are debtors, why we owe. We didn't make the debt. And all of this, everything that we would ever own, even our children, our labor, our houses, our cars, everything that we buy, who we are, everything was put into a public trust called the Unum Sanctum. Scrip money or negotiable debt instruments were issued by a private corporation, which is owned by, in other words, they gave us scrip money instead. Negotiable debt instruments, printed on paper, which paper thing, you could tear it up, you could burn it, you could rip it. But you cannot do that to gold and silver. So scrip money or negotiable debt instruments was issued, or it should say were issued, by a private corporation, which is owned by a group of Sabbatean European Jewish bankers and which is known to everybody as the Federal Reserve System. These promissory notes were called Federal Reserve notes, and our future treatment by the United States government was to be redefined under the USC, or the United States Code Title 50, the Trading with the Enemy Act, in which the American citizens are defined as the enemy of their government. And this is the reason why Lincoln's declaration of war is renewed yearly by Congress and the president. In the same year, President Roosevelt closed the Virginia Colony Corporation and opened a new government corporation called the United States Inc., or Incorporated. In the same year. Read that over again. The Federal Reserve Act was designed and written by a German national who was repatriated to the United States through Ellis Island. His name was Paul Warburg and was a Sabbatean Jewish banker. Okay. And assignment was to craft a piece of legislation designed to control the finances of the United States. Okay. He was Sabbatean German Jewish banker of the Rothschild banking empire. And we know that the Rothschilds are one of the 5 families that own everything in the world, okay, through this banking system and funding all of these so-called dollar bills and credit and everything that we work for and towards all our taxes eventually go back to them and the Vatican and the Crown and the United States Corporation and all these other countries are all a part of the system. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation and is owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Sabbatean Rothschild banking empire and not by the people or the corporate government. And it says that the Great Depression of 1929, like so many other catastrophes before and what we're going through now with the COVID virus, this was actually a staged event just like the COVID virus. See my video on Did the United States invent COVID-19? Concocted by the Sabbatean Rothschilds and Rockefeller banking empires, the Queen and the British Parliament, the US President and Congress, the Vatican. Okay, so these things are all stage events in order to steal the Americans' gold and silver and replace it with negotiable debt instruments. And these negotiable debt instruments are also known as contracts. Okay, so a negotiable debt instrument is what you get in the mail when you have to pay your bill, a credit card, a car payment, a house payment, or anything. These are negotiable instruments. So it goes on to talk about some of the license and the Trading with the Enemy Act and what that looks like following the bankruptcy of America. And so this is why that I strongly encourage you and all people to take a look at how you can terminate all of your corporate contracts. Okay, so here's that form, and it's here, which the one that I did for myself and my consort. Um, Here's the form, and you could download it from the Moorish. You have to have declared your nationality already, and if you don't know how to do that, I'm sure that you'll find the directions here. Take a quick look. Okay, yeah. So the Moorish American Consulate, and this is the grid, MoorishAmericanConsulate.org. Try to follow the directions here, and it has a process and procedure. And then you want to do your problem right here, and then proclamation. So these are is in red, and everything that has to do with the corporate. Now we changed the form, so when you download it, it's not going to be like any card that you can find that are doing it now. I personally had a difficult time getting our ID cards here. There was one question that they asked me that I didn't understand and answered back. So all of the first sovereign trust document, all these things you'll do prior to terminating your corporate contracts, okay, and travel documents that you need, universal affidavit. So after that, you'll also be able to do a download, and then you save it to your computer, and then you can print it out, or you can fill it out as a PDF if you know how. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I upload it, and you put all of your. That's my born name, Vivian Gale Bennett. Any derivatives that I've used. Even ill-advised to get our license changed until we got our ID for into our appellation, and we did that. And after that, we started getting mail or contracts in the mail. I've not terminated that name, but I'm just terminating anything that comes to my domicile in that name. Okay, so. and all derivatives, my social security number, and I have also listed my descendants and heirs here until they wake up here, but they should actually do it themselves. We have the date in red and lowercase. That's Moorish American calendar year, the sun and the moon calendar date, operation. Anywhere that you see where I have my appellation, you'll see, oh, you want to write your new appellation here. You can change your last, which we have L, J, Day, and some other ones to choose from. If you want more information on that, I have a booklet that explains it. You can email me or drop me a note here and I could inbox it to you. So anywhere that you have it underlined and it says put your appellation here is very specific. Irish American appellation here, we don't use names. Names are for the corporation or lowercase, capital, diminutive, or nolo. We're going to focus on the red and what goes in black. So as you can see, everything that I'm writing on this contract is in red and in lowercase. But when I refer to myself, I put in all black and capital. Attention in the United States Corporation under my stroke. I created a fake person that has a name the same as mine, but it's spelled in all capital letters, and they've done the same thing to all of us through our birth certificates and birth social security numbers. And I would spend more time on that about it in the next video. So again, anything in do with the United States, stick to the black and red. If you do understand why that's done, then you can use it. So you want to put breaking that contract so that they cannot use it against you or any funds that attach to it. Because once you declare your nationality, we become a creditor and terminate all your contracts with the corporation. You're no longer a debtor, but you become a creditor. You become sovereign. I'll scroll down here. You can use it for reference. And when you do your own, make sure that it's all in lowercase. Corporation that you had, I mean, every contract that you had since you were born until today, and that you're currently in, and put that there. Any loans, and it starts with your birth certificate. Like I said, use this here. If you go on this website and put in all the numbers together, separate them, whatever, you'll see all of the corporations that are using your birth certificate as a bond, as your birth certificate and your social security numbers are traded on the stock market every day. Okay, and we're traded on the stock market because our birth certificates are worth millions of dollars, and that's where the acceptance for value process comes in. Is they had a format where you would um, just when you get a bill, you would write out the acceptance for value for the amount and then send it in. Every year, you're supposed to send in your receipts and get a reimbursement check. Now, Moors don't do that. What we do is establish ourselves as the creditor, and an indigenous and aboriginal people of the land, which is different for white people and any other races. As I have come to understand that you are a Moor if your mother was a person of color. So there's the form right there that I downloaded from I don't want to download it, and minimize that screen. To continue on with my conversation, I wanted to end by showing you a couple of photographs that I have saved in my computer. And as you can, okay, we went over the form. So you want to, when you get to the end of the form, you want to autograph it. And I have that, go back and show you that. I didn't show you that. And so, as I said, when you put this on the public record, we now just put them online. If you want to send them to the addresses that are listed, you can. But all these corporations are going under. They're claiming it's because of the COVID virus, but it's really because the Moors have put a eminent domain lien on all the corporations because they've all built all everything in the United States through our own credit. Okay, so you want to sign or autograph the last page with your new chosen appellation and some name and choose that as your new appellation. You would sign it in red. We always sign in red because it symbolizes uh, a living being, not a dead entity, or civil little mortus, which we already saw means dead in the eyes of the law. And also, I think now I did this over and I lowercase all of this. So this is an older page. So you can go put all of this in red, except here, this would be your address, your mailing address. That would stay in all capital letters and in black. Everything else would be in lowercase red. And I opened the wrong one. So I worked on this about 3 times and changed it. And then you want to get a red ink pad and sign your appellation and then put your red thumbprint. Normally, I have it touching my signature. Some people don't. And lately, I've seen some people just have a stamp and they put their right thumbprint on the stamp. These are some of the older, yeah, this is the older page. So I have the newer logo here, the Moorish American logo. And this is our family trust, Freedom El Maru Republic. And so you'll that are on the document, or if you have your own logo for your own family seal, and then you're done pretty much. If you have any questions, you can look up some other ones on the Moorish American Consulate, but they may not be in capitis diminutive or in capitis nolo, so you want to be careful with that. Okay, so what I want to show you here are some pictures. Yeah, so we'll start right here, and this is a definition of Aboriginal, Indigenous, and I want to make it clear to you the difference of being Aboriginal and Indigenous and why only certain people can, or certain or people of color can use this document to declare their nationality and reclaim their sovereign status and come outside of the United States corporation or the corporation of whatever country that you live in. Okay, if you're in Africa, you can do this. If you're in France or Germany, you can do this if you are a Moor. So I want to make clear to you through some definitions of earlier dictionaries what Moor is. So we have some definitions here of black. Here I want to pay attention to the word black Moor, or the definition. Blackamoor is referred to black and a Moor, a Negro or a black man. So if you want if you ever hear people saying, "Oh, white people are Moors," all you have to do is point here and say a Negro or a person, a black man is a Moor. I don't argue with people over uh, information, but I only state what I know or have studied or read, and then I leave them to see. Okay, here's another. That's where I wanted to start. So it actually opened all of them individually and collectively. So I wanted to start here, and these are some basic things that I have saved in my computer that have to do with Moors. So you are who you say you are. I am a Moor, and this is how it's also spelled. And we'll talk about spelling in a future video. Okay, so I am a Moor, Moabite, Moroccan. All of these things are going to be defined in your paperwork. You'll see and get an explanation of what they mean and more definition. El American, El Moroccanos. Okay, a American is El Americanos. You can study that. Okay, we'll see another definition of an American. A noun pertaining to America. A native of American originally applied to the Aboriginals was found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Gee, how did that happen? Okay, so American was originally defined as the Aboriginals, copper colored races, found here. It's all telling, found here by the Europeans, okay? But now they've applied it to themselves as they've applied a lot of things to themselves. I mean, everything to themselves. Okay, and I'm not speaking with malice of heart. I'm just speaking from what I believe to be fact. Okay, so let's go on to see some ancient Moorish uh, photographs that I've gathered from the internet, Facebook. I wish I did the author see the author of the photos. So here, I just want to show you some history. Negro black man, we already saw that. First, original of a country. They say down here the Indians in America, Aborigines in America. Even though they say that, doesn't make it the truth. Aboriginal, again, noun plural, the first inhabitants of a country. Okay, now it says this word is not regularly formed, but has become generally prevalent. So you can interpret that as you continue to add more information to it. Indigenous means or is defined as native born in a country, applied to persons, native produced naturally in a country. Okay, so that's why more say they're aboriginal and indigenous. And now we see the definition of a Moor, a native of the northern coast of Africa, El Morocco. Okay, people of Morita or Tanya, the country of dark complected people. The same country is now called Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, etc. Okay, now down here, Moors, it says to was a verb. Okay, so that's not the same thing. A place for mooring. Anything that is have to do with black and more or people is usually used or redefined in some derogatory sense. But we know that our black is beautiful, our black is powerful, and our black is aboriginal and indigenous, in that we are the aboriginal and indigenous people of. And there was a video on Facebook. I've been trying to find it. If anybody, I mean, picture from the video, then please inbox me. I want to watch it and save it. Uh, so this is another picture that I got from Brother Koo, and I looked it up online and I found it on an article. And I think this is all telling here. You know, we have the Pope sitting under the Moorish insignia. Okay, so we see the Moorish insignia that is cut off here, but it's the same shape as the Pope Pontiff's, I will say, hat. Okay, that he's wearing. Okay, and you see that his hands are outstretched, just like the insignia here. And these two, which look like ears on the picture, would be these two men sitting here. And then you see that he has the sign of the cross, and you see that they've copied things from us. You see the keys, which I don't know what they signify, but to me they signify the keys of the kingdom. I see copper colored people. I see the bear, which represents normally in biblical terms of countries and power of a nation. So that's all telling. You don't see that picture every day, but everything that was created by us first. And you can look from religion to from history to science. all of the first were developed by us and taken away from us. And so Moors today are taking that back. And again, I was looking for another picture. I think I'm going to have to close this and go into the folder. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're about to look at this picture and then I'm going to let you go. And if you know the author of this video, it's on Facebook, then please drop it for me so I can find it and save it again. I'm going to say not library, but no, in a well, let's just say library, but museum. There you go. He's in a museum in the place where he lives, and he's showing how all of the world used to be one land, and that Morocco was part of this one great piece of land until eventually the water separated. And then all of the names of all of the countries that we have today were all inside this one land that was in the shape of Africa. Okay, so El Morocco, and I've learned that Morocco even comes from the name America. Everything was one country. So we see Morocco here, and we see California, the Temple Inn, the Lincoln exhibit, and I do have more pictures on my phone, but I didn't have the author of the video. If you know, please send it to me. I'd be much sincerely grateful. If you like the video, please share it and or comment and like it. And I will be uploading the notes from this video and also the video on my website, on my blog. I did have here, hopefully it's still here, saved for you to find easily. My website here, I have a blog. You can find out more about me and my blog. This page keeps messing up, but it might not look like this on your computer. And I try and post my video, the notes that you see, so you can go back and study for yourself. Now, I might not get it done within 24 hours, but usually within 2 or 3 days, everything is posted here. And then I thought, maybe I should have a website, called the Personal Freedom Center. So I went ahead and made that, has a little bit of different information in the blogs on my website. So you can be the judge for yourself and visit both pages and, and also find out about the books that I've written. But as far as nationality and doing the termination of corporate contracts are things that I've been incorporated into this personal freedom because it encompasses everything as far as religion, spirituality, your emotional life, your spiritual life, your physical life and health, and your financial life. And so I've incorporated. Down here, you'll see our sister site right here, Dynamic Graphics. And if you need any graphics done, any animated videos or anything, then you can just check that out. And prices are affordable. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. And I'll be making videos more often, as I keep saying, but once a month so far has been my best. And that's because I'm still working on our paperwork. And I encourage you to do it yours sooner rather than later. Okay, now this is the one I did on the coronavirus, which shows proof that may or may not show proof that the United States may or may not have coronavirus and owns the patent. There's another article I did when I was diagnosed with the COVID virus, and there's some other videos that I could see. I don't have all of them up here, but I'm still working on it. A lot of them are the page Vivian Gale or Freedom Imani. So when I have time, I do add them. I apologize that I haven't done that as of yet, but there's still a lot of good information here. Have a great, wonderful day. Get this stuff done. It's important. Not everyone, but a lot of people are saying that by December 21st that everything is going to change. And so I'm trying to make sure that I have all this paperwork done that the housing markets are going to fall, the dollar is going to completely crash, housing market's going to crash, banks are going to go under, close. And so if the banks close, then no one's going to be able to transact business. And so I did a recent video on a class on gardening indoors and emergency food prep. You don't have to watch mine. There's a lot of them on YouTube. Download them in case you can't get on the internet. Download and print the instructions. Start buying your heirloom seeds. I'm not trying to induce fear, but I always err on the side of safety. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Peace. Islam. Islam means I self am law and master.